Hey everyone, Scott here from Wicked Reports. Welcome to this edition of the Ecommerce Insights podcast. Today we're going to talk about GCLIDs. What are they? Why are they important? How does Google use GCLID data? What's the impact of your bid strategies based on GCLID values imported into the system? When and how often should you be importing conversions? What about delayed conversions? How does that affect things? How can you tell Google about those? We're going to cover all these topics on the episode. Let's dive right in. GCLIDs stand for Google Click IDs. If you ever clicked on an ad in Google and you look at the URL when you head over to wherever the ad's taken you, you will often see at the end of the website you visited, GCLID equals, and then a big string of characters. That's the Google Click ID, which we are going to call GCLID for the rest of this episode. Now, you'll see them most of the time, and that is an ID that lets Google know what was clicked on. And when you don't see them, it is because you are clicking from an iOS 14.5 or higher device, and it's been determined that you're opted out of tracking, or they don't know if you are in tracking. In that case, you might see GBRAD or WBRAD equals, or you might see nothing. But for the purposes of what we're talking about today, which is generally web-based conversions and how to optimize those, we're going to look at the GCLID and when it is on the URL, which is all of the time if you're not on an iPhone or an iPad. So these GCLIDs are important because they let Google know specifically what was clicked on and the timestamp of when it was clicked. And it's a way that they can help track what campaign, what ad group, what audience or keyword or display URL or interest, all the different ways to target on Google. Well, this Click ID kind of helps them know, hey, it happened. More importantly, you can capture that GCLID and then send it back to Google, and they will use it to optimize. That's where the real juice comes in. Because if you can capture that GCLID and let Google know, hey, this click was really important to me and valuable, then Google's algorithms, depending on the bid strategy you pick, will use that information to further optimize your campaign. In essence, the data will get smarter, and then you'll be buying better customers, which is what we all want to do. The customers want to see ads from people they want to see them from. Google wants you to spend money, and you want to get clicks that turn into great customers. So if you can capture a GCLID and it is valuable and let Google know, they can, it's like a puppy getting trained. It's constantly, I'm training a puppy right now. Puppy's constantly peeing in the house. You go outside, it finally pees outside, you give it treaties, you say, good dog. Well, in essence, when you send Google a GCLID with value, you're saying, good puppy, if you were training a puppy. Now, Google uses this data in a couple ways that I'm aware of, other ones that I'm sure I'm not. One is, based on the bid strategy, it uses it to find out if it's doing a good job in achieving your bid strategy objective. So if you have chosen a value-based bid strategy, of which two are maximize conversion value or target ROAS, ROAS standing for return on ad spend. If you choose either of those, Google is keenly concerned with how valuable are the clicks. And so if you can send GCLIDs to Google and say, hey, these clicks were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to me and these other ones were useless, that's letting the value-based bid strategies know they're doing a good job, and then they're going to look at those people and or whatever auction machine learning and insights triggered your ad to that person, and they're going to try to do more of that for you, which is fantastic. Now, on the flip side, if you're sending a bunch of clicks with no value and you have a value-based bid strategy of maximize conversion value or target ROAS, then Google's going to say, I'm doing a bad job. I need to try to show this ad to someone else because whatever the criteria I'm using isn't working. In a nutshell is kind of how that works. Now, if you choose a volume bid strategy such as maximize conversions, without the word value, and you just say, I want as many conversions as possible, Google ignores the value and just looks at the volume or the count. Are we getting enough conversions? We're trying to get as many as humanly possible. And so then in that case, Google will ignore a $100 sale versus a $1 sale. It's the same thing to Google if you pick that bid strategy. I know this from talking to the product manager there for offline conversion import, and I didn't know that. I was always psyched to learn, and that was a thing I wanted to share. It's fascinating. Now, when you're sending, that's a big edge to know that if you're doing value-based bidding, you want to get the GCLIDs with the most value to Google so they can give you what you want in return, which is more of those valuable clicks. So keep that in mind. It's an urgent thing to do, in my opinion, if you're a value-based bidder, particularly if you have dynamic pricing. You need to get those updated, accurate values to Google so it can bid on the most valuable customers, future valuable customers for you. Now, when it comes to importing the data, there's been a lot of debates online. I've had some just on Zooms with people about the frequency that you need conversions imported to Google. And in particular, I've been told a number of times, man, we need to get data in there fast. We need real time. We need to get in there as fast as we can. We need the data imported into Google. Can you get it within the hour? That would be amazing. That is one that I did hear from advertisers that are spending high volume and swear that that helps their campaigns better. However, same product manager at Google told me that, first of all, if you were able to get GCLIDs to Google with value within an hour, it wouldn't even work. The soonest you can get them in is when 3 to 4 hours after the ad click. If you try to get them sooner, you get an error message. So not only can you not get them in faster, Google will reject them. So that's good to know for those of you thinking, I need to be feeding the system as fast as I can. The reason people think that often is because Facebook, the opposite of Google, they want data within an hour if you're feeding the conversion API in, or else it starts to degrade performance if you wait longer. Like they're terrified of a day delayed data, which is so puzzling, but that's what it is. Now, Google further said, if you send conversions too fast, it shocks the system and creates volatility in your account. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like things I want to have happen to my ad account. And so, smart bidding likes routines. Again, it's like a puppy. It doesn't want chaos. It wants a consistent routine, and then it learns and figures out. So here at Wicked Reports, we send it every day, same time. Every morning, we send the conversions for the previous day. Google likes that. We built it with them. And that's what they told us to do. And then further confirmation from the product manager, hey, that's what you need to do. We want them daily, which I was relieved because we'd already built it. I don't want to go back and have to rebuild it again. So now when you're uploading GCLIDs to Google, however you're doing it, Google will dedupe if the GCLID plus the conversion time plus the conversion name combination is already in the system. So that's great news, right? It will intelligently dedupe when something looks to be the same. That's fantastic. So keep that in mind. And then for those of you on the smaller side of the ad spend, there's not an exact precise minimum amount, but the team recommends at least 30 conversions in 28 days to use smart bidding. And that's at the minimum. So you're probably going to need more than that. So if you don't have enough, if you're a really small advertiser not getting a sale a day, this isn't something you need to worry about or be doing because you can't really take advantage. I would argue 10 sales a day where it's really going to show value. If you can't get 10 sales a day, then move up your funnel to the lead gen that you can get 10 and use that, and then use a maximized conversion smart bid on your lead generation. Now, the bid strategy, as I've already mentioned, is quite important because based on which bid strategy you use, it's which value that Google is going to optimize on. But it kind of depends on your goal. Do you want qualified leads or do you want volume? Do you want highest value customers? Everyone likes to say they want to default to the highest value customers, but often that's a smaller amount than what you would get with the volume-based strategies, and people get antsy and frustrated and want the volume-based. So that's why it happens. But one potential pitfall is if you optimize to multiple conversion actions and the same user exists on all of them, smart bidding overinflates the value of the user because it counts towards those multiple conversion actions. An example, let's say you have one campaign that's bidding for leads and is using maximized conversions. You get another campaign that's bidding on sales using maximized conversion value. And the same person is becoming a lead and buying really quickly. In that case, smart bidding really loves that user and overinflates it. So that's something to be aware of. Is it going to cause a huge mistake or drama in your account? Most likely no, but it is something that is to be wary of. Now, it's worth mentioning the Google sales team just focuses on the value-based bidding strategies. They feel those are the best. They provide the most value for everyone involved. And if you're using different conversion actions of varying value, value-based bidding is again the way to go over maximized conversions. And the thinking is, well, you want value over quantity. I know I'm a big proponent of that, particularly like with Wicked reports. We're not trying to close every single person hard sell on the phone. First of all, I don't think that's ethical. You only want to close people that are really going to use your service. Second of all, we want max value for everyone involved, not volume. Last thing I want to talk about is top of the funnel conversions, because your cold traffic leads that become the high value customers, those are the most valuable things out of your data, in my opinion, because it's so tough to detect and find those things. Furthermore, stitching it together is tough. I mean, that's why we have a business. We know how to do it. But it's also gold because most reporting or scoring mechanisms so heavily focus on last click that a big edge for someone using marketing data is when the cold traffic, new lead gen can be mapped to value. And so Google has a way that you can do that. I feel comfortable talking about this because we built it with them. But it's not to say you have to have Wicked reports to do that. You could use your own way of doing it, but we do have it already built. But the premise is, if you have a Google ad, generates a GCLID, becomes a lead in your CRM, Klaviyo, ActiveCampaign, Drip, what have you, HubSpot, and then they don't buy right away, but you're using value-based bidding. Well, value-based bidding decides that click isn't any good. It didn't generate value. And so it moves on to, the next click. However, if that lead closes anytime in the next 90 days, preferably multiple times, like repeat buying or getting on recurring, or it could just be a one-time, when that lead buys down the road from that GCLID, it would be very advantageous to update Google with that value. Because suddenly Google says, oh, wait a minute, that click, when I targeted Scott based on XYZ parameters that I thought was worthless, was actually worth a lot of money. I need to reconsider the targeting as being more valuable for him. And once you add volume to this, if you're doing this 10, 20, 50 times a day, your new leads are buying, just as a delayed conversion time, you send that value up to Google, it can get very intelligent about who to bid on. And so basically your delayed ROI is now being pumped into the system and educating it so that it can buy more of those great leads, ideally on autopilot. It's the closest I've been able to architect or come to allowing your top of the funnel cold traffic ROI to act on autopilot for you. Because that's the dream, right? Data just making money. Just like you don't even do anything. It's just like put in the machine, capture data, put in the machine, out pumps money on the other end. And that's what this can do. It's not like a magic trick. It's not a guaranteed to make you rich overnight, some easy button. But what it does do is methodically grow value in your accounts. So I would highly recommend you figure out a way to make sure Google has the information it needs to help make you money. Why not? Because you can. So that's just, I would like to wrap up. We covered a lot here in a short amount of time, but GCLIDs are important if you're a Google advertiser. It's important that you capture them. It's important you map them to value. It's important you send them back to Google and educate them. And then when you're picking a bid strategy, consider what data you're sending Google, because it greatly impacts how Google is going to know if it's doing a good job, and it will continue to try to do a good job for you. And it only knows based on the data it gets back if it's doing what you want. So you really need to think through that and make sure that the data is flowing in a way that educates Google in the most advantageous way. And then, contrary to internet blogs and forums, once a day conversions or whatever consistent drumbeat you're going to do is how to upload GCLIDs to Google, straight from the team that runs it. So that concludes this episode. Thank you for listening.